War has broken out across the galaxy. The Scruffy Nerf Herders must band together to watch the worst-rated Star Wars movie of all time. Will an 18% rating on Rotten Tomatoes be enough to break up these lifelong friends? Will Anakin and Ahsoka get past their differences? Who was drunk enough to sleep with Jabba the Hutt and bear him a child? Find out all of this and much more on this week's episode of Clonecast.
Hey, welcome to Clonecast, the show that kind of ended with Kenobi Cast, and the next best thing we could do was Clonecast. My name is Bryant. Of course, joined with me today is
Robbie Rice, the one and only.
And Brendan. May the Force be with you.
Oh, gosh. I felt like that was the biggest mistake I made throughout the entire Kenobi Cast, is never did I ever say that.
You know, it was crazy. I was waiting for how you were going to intro this, and then you were just like not saying hello there. So that was like, oh God, what do we say?
It's such a weird thing because like these aren't new shows, right? So
Nope.
It's stuff that we're watching is old. What do I do as an intro? Like, do I just be like Roger, and that we just do that as the
I like it.
Roger, and welcome to the Clone Wars.
Oh man, yeah, no, it's been a long time coming. You know, it's one of those shows that I have definitely wanted to watch, and the times that my kids have been kind of just watching it on their own, and I've kind of caught a couple moments here and there. I'm like, oh, it looks cool. And what's funny is my father, who's a big Star Wars guy, he has been super into it, I guess, recently. He's like, have you watched it? And I'm like, no, but I plan on watching it soon. He's like, oh, it's great. So surprised that he likes it because he wasn't a huge fan of the prequels, but he seems to like this a lot. So
Yeah, I mentioned this when we were on Kenobi Cast, that with you guys being such fans of the prequels, I was excited for you to jump into it. And when I first watched Clone Wars, I wasn't even aware this movie existed. So it's kind of weird because I just started watching the show. But this movie kind of does a good job of like introducing you to the characters. But have you guys ever seen the Rotten Tomato reviews for this movie?
no. I haven't.
Okay, hold on. I just want to pull it up real quick because it is terribly reviewed.
Well, while you're pulling that up, I was curious. I know that, you know, the Clone Wars has its own animated series. Is the stuff that happens in the movie not repeated?
No,
That
it's not. No.
Oh, okay.
You know, I'm a liar. I seem to remember this thing having a way worse review. But it's got a 93% tomato meter. So audience score 92%. So I guess it did get reviewed well. Oh, here it is. Never mind. I lied. That was for the animated series.
Yeah,
the animated series has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. The Clone Wars Star Wars animated movie, 18% from critics and
oh my gosh,
40% from audience. And that's over 100,000 people rated this.
Okay,
Wow.
so now let's do a quick game. Bryant, you've seen this movie more than anybody else, so you start us off. Give your rating 1 to 100 on this movie.
This movie is super long. It's longer than it needs to be. I would give it a solid 65-70.
Okay. Robbie?
I mean, what am I supposed to be comparing this to? Like all the other Star Wars stuff I've
Just
seen?
this movie as itself. Like, what would you rate this movie in terms of watchability?
That's not fair because it's a Star Wars movie, so it's like
That's fine. It could be influenced by that.
so I don't know if that makes it worse or better as far as the rating goes because it's Star Wars. I would say like a 42 is what I'd give. I think I'm pretty close to what the majority feel. I'm actually
gonna put
happy.
it at a solid 20. It
I'm
was
actually
pretty terrible, to be completely honest with you. Like, I'm so happy that you brought up this whole tomato meter thing because after watching this movie, I was like, I am not excited to watch this animated series now. Holy cow.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. So, as we mentioned, the animated series has way better reviews than the actual movie. And having watched the show first and then watching this movie, I was kind of like, why the hell did they make this movie? It just wasn't necessary. And like I mentioned...
Did the movie come out after?
No,
the
it
show?
came out before.
Okay, so like in actual release time, Like in real life, the movie came out, and then afterward they made the show.
Yeah, so the movie came out in
Okay.
theater, like I think around summertime, and then fall is when Disney picked up the animated series and was like, hey, we're going to turn this into a TV show. And the TV show is a million times better than this movie. And my biggest gripe with this is that this movie, the pacing is just terrible. Like it runs on and on and on, and it's literally 3 episodes in one movie. It's like the first part of it, you've got this battle that Obi-Wan and Anakin and Ahsoka are on this planet, and they're trying to fight the droids. And then like episode 2 would be where they're trying to kind of go rescue Baby Hutt, and then like episode 3 is delivering Baby Hutt, I guess. And that's kind of like what the pacing typically is on the show, is that like you're dealing with like short-paced you're dealing with fast-paced like 20-minute, 30-minute episodes, and there's really no dull time in the actual TV series.
I think the problem that I had with it was so unbelievably full of action, but I was so bored watching it. Like there was so much happening. I couldn't believe it, honestly, with how much was actually truly happening in this movie, at how bored I was. And I was like, what is happening? Like, I don't get it. Like, it's just not engaging content, I guess is the right way to put it. Like even the shield portion, like let's jump into a quick scene. Like when Ahsoka and Anakin are going behind enemy lines to go like crush the shield. Like it's supposed to be this like really like heart beating, oh gosh, the droid army's marching on them, and then they walk right past them, and then they're just like carefree. And I'm like, that was not what I expected that to be. Like I don't know, it was just weird. I was just bored.
So I don't know if I would say I was bored, but, you know, I'm starting to get up there in age. I'm older than both of you, and decided to watch this on my lunch break with my daughter. She's 12 and super into Star Wars, and so we were watching it, and I remember them making plans to, like, go destroy that shield generator, and I was like, all right, cool, and next thing I know, my daughter's waking me up. She's like, Daddy. I'm like, what? And she's like, you're sleeping. And I was like, oh, my bad. And they were like all of a sudden inside, like by the shield generator, like about to destroy it. And then I guess I must have fell asleep again, because the next time I woke up, it was a different scene. And I was like, oh God, hopefully nothing super important happened there. So
What I miss?
I might have to go back. I do know that I missed Anakin giving Ahsoka the name of Snips, because he constantly called her Snips for the rest of the movie. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I must have missed something. So I had to like Google it. Why does Anakin call Ahsoka Snips?
She's snippy.
She's snippy. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, really the one thing that this movie does that I think is beneficial to the show is it introduces you to characters that you're not aware of. Like, for me, jumping into the Clone Wars animated series was easy because you know Mace Windu, you know Yoda, you know Anakin, you know Obi-Wan, and randomly in the animated series, Ahsoka pops up. And it's just like, who's this girl? And wait, Anakin has a Padawan? Like, how is that going on? And then, like, Rex, the clone trooper, and Cody, and all of these guys.
Oh my God. Rex was such a badass, dude.
Oh, just wait.
I loved Rex, man. Yeah. I think they did a good job with Ahsoka. Kind of just bringing her on as, like, a new character. Because it wasn't something where it was, like, they had some sort of history before. Like, Anakin and Obi-Wan were both like, oh, who's this? What bothered me was Ventress. Because they had seemingly already fought before. And I'm like, where did that start? Like, did I miss something? Was there something I should have watched before this? So maybe that's a question for you, Brian. Is there something that's explained on what her backgrounds are? Or is she all of a sudden just this... I don't know. It's just a problem for me because they clearly had met with her before. They, like, knew who she was.
Yeah, I think that she definitely does get, like, a story arc in the show.
Okay.
Origin story, I really don't think you get it. I think you're just like, oh, okay, this is the bad guy that we have to be concerned about. But what I kind of thought was interesting, though, about Ventress was that she's Dooku's apprentice, right? And I'm like, man, you look at that lineage of Padawans. Dooku is Yoda's apprentice. And then Dooku trained Qui-Gon, and then now he's training Ventress. And I'm just like, this guy has had such an impact on essentially like the Star Wars universe, where he's basically created like Qui-Gon, he trained Qui-Gon, Qui-Gon trained Obi-Wan, and now Obi-Wan's facing Ventress. So it's like the battle of the Padawans. I don't know. That was one part that I thought was kind of cool.
That is interesting. But my biggest, like I said, my problem is the way they brought her on. They brought her on with this like seemingly history between them and the main characters that like I said, unless you know, they show it in the animated series what their dealings with her were before. But like with Darth Maul, it was like, oh wow, there's this new Sith. Like I understood that. Like it was new to us, it was new to the characters as well. But my problem with it was knowing that there's movies and things like that before this movie that I watched, and then Anakin and Obi-Wan both being like, Ventress, yeah, I know you. Like they've dealt with her before. Oh, every time I show up here, you seem to be around Ventress. And it's like, okay, well, I don't ever remember seeing her. So that just kind of bothered me, because I just feel like it was, had they introduced her as like a brand new bad guy, she just was attacking them and they're like, who is this? I think that would have been better. But
they did say that she was his top assassin, Dooku's top assassin. Not that that helps any, but that was the only backstory they gave.
That's what I'm saying. Like, give me some backstory on this bad character, especially if you're going to make the main characters know who she is, as if they've fought and dealt with her before.
Mm-hmm. So here's the other thing, right? And I'm just looking this up because the one thing about Clone Wars is that like it's kind of jumpy, right? The first season is very much in like order, but when you get past like a certain point, it's like, oh, you should watch this episode before you watch this one. So I just looked up the Star Wars Clone War like chronological episode order. So this isn't like seasonal. It's like, hey, this is what we recommend. So there's 2 episodes before the movie that they recommend, and one is from season 2 and it's episode 16, and the other one is season 1 episode 16. And just clicking them, both of these take place on the planet of Christophsis, where Anakin and Obi-Wan are defending. So that takes place directly before. But interestingly enough, Ventress is a character in the first episode that they say to watch. So so I assume that they're going to go back and like maybe introduce her.
Well, that makes more sense then. And yeah, I've seen that chronological timeline too, because when I started watching the show, probably about maybe 2 years ago, I started watching them in chronological order based on like a list that I had looked up as well. So, but I don't think I ever got that far of showing those 2 episodes. Mainly what I saw was like, I think it was almost the list was following, like you said, like the first like 4 episodes of the first season was like the first 4 you should watch. And that's kind of what I had watched. So
it's just such a complicated way to digest it. Like, and I guess it's the same thing. Like, and maybe you guys could touch on it. Like Pokemon. Is Pokemon pretty like episode 1 to episode 12 the same story going through, or does it kind of jump around a little bit?
No, it's chronological.
Okay.
Like, because it's all about his story. Here we go. Welcome to Pokemon Cast. It's all about his story of obtaining each Pokemon that he gets and his journey and stuff like that, and it doesn't like jump around, because I mean that would be the same thing. It'd be like, oh, all of a sudden I have this new Pokemon. It's like, well, when the hell did you catch that? Like, show us that. And that was what I had the problem with this. But knowing that there's episodes apparently that we should have started with before this movie, Bryant, way to go. I guess we'll wait to see when that happens.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely get to that. I mean, and like I said, this one was 3 episodes. I kind of count it as 3 episodes because there's literally 3 different stories. So I guess breaking it down, Brendan, you said you were a little bored with the Christophsis. It was such a weird planet, Christophysis or whatever it was called. Did you get excited though to have another Skywalker story at least?
Yeah, no, I mean I was super excited to start watching it, and I was also like really like on the edge of my seat with all the action, but then I just found myself bored. Like, it was like the action was there, but there was no real action, and that was the issue I had.
What was your problem with the action?
I don't know. It's really hard to explain. Like I said, I just felt bored, but I felt like there was so much happening that I shouldn't have been bored.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of the opposite of you. I understand where you're coming from, because like I said, I clearly fell asleep in like the Battle of Christophsis in the beginning, but I feel like as I was watching it, it was a little bit darker, I guess, than I was expecting. Like, even in the Star Wars movies, I mean, you see stormtroopers get blasted, but that's about it. But, like, there was a couple moments where, like, a super droid, like, held one of the clone troopers up and then, like, shot him in the chest. And I was like, oh, damn. And then, like, in the very beginning in the Battle of Christophsis, the droid army was pushing and they were shooting like crazy. And then all the clone troopers, one of them stood up and was like, all right, man, let's go. We're going to get these clankers. And then, like, his head gets shot off and, like, the helmet just goes flying. And I was like, oh, my God. And, like, obviously it doesn't show blood or gore or anything. But and they all kind of, like, look at him. And I was like, dang, like, you just don't see that in the live action, I guess. So I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool. I appreciated that, and I couldn't tell if I really enjoyed the lightsaber fights or if I just didn't like them.
There was something to it that didn't feel like it was grounded in reality because it was animated. Like they were doing stuff that I was like, oh, that's cool, but like it just didn't feel the
Yeah, but you can't even say that because you know as well as I. Well, maybe you don't. I guess I don't really know, but like
the green lightsabers are
I think
assigned
about
to
it
Force
like,
users and blue lightsabers.
No,
All
I
right,
think about it
Force
like I
Ghost.
think about Avatar. Like the animated series Avatar is probably the closest thing I could compare to this series that we're about to start watching. And when I first started watching that, I was like, it's a cartoon. And it's one of my favorite shows that I've ever watched. Like, and there's like very little reality in that show. So
True.
I don't really know what it was about it. I think honestly the biggest issue I had was the jumpiness of the show. Mm-hmm. Like I felt like there was very little time to process what was happening before they were immediately jumping somewhere else and something else was going on. And I was like, okay, like even in the big battle fights, they would jump back and forth between Anakin and Rex, and then, oh, where's Obi-Wan? And he's on this planet, and suddenly Padme's here, and oh, there's another fat hut, and I was just like, oh my God, like, can you just show me the story of what's happening and present it to me like how I should be watching this, not jumping back and forth 9,000 times in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I would love to go back in time and know, like, when they made this movie, did you know you were getting an animated series? Or were you just trying to make the best of it? Like, were you trying to spin it off into the TV show, or were you literally just trying to create a standalone movie? Because pacing, like you're saying, Brendan, was so bad. Like, they tried to accomplish way too much in this movie. But it's one of those that I'm just like, it had potential to be so good, but it was just like, I don't know. It's hard to know what they were wanting to accomplish with it.
Yeah, and I think what's hard is you're presenting this to Star Wars fans, and Star Wars has always been a live-action movie. So when you're now suddenly taking everything that we've known as Star Wars fans and then turning it into an animated series, I think that's probably where my issue is with it. And it's not even like an issue, it's just I think it's something that I need to get used to, almost like an adjustment period. That, like I said, the lightsaber fights just felt weird. That's because I'm used to seeing real people doing lightsaber fights and not quick movements of like top left diagonal block down to a bottom block, like super fast. But that's how you kind of do it in animation. So
and also, like, as far as Star Wars movies go, I think this one had the most lightsaber fights out of any Star Wars movie.
Oh yeah, and I expect that a lot from animated series. And like I said, it's not bad. I'm not saying it's terrible, it's awful, or anything like that. It just, something felt off, and I think just now kind of talking about it with you guys, that's what I realized, is that I'm so used to seeing live action Star Wars and, you know, fights, wars between the CIS and the clone troopers, or lightsaber fights, and then now suddenly I'm being brought to this where it's just, it's a lot to take in. And I know it's animated, but some of my issues too right in the beginning was when they were on that planet and the droids were kind of just marching in a line. Yeah. And they were just kind of walking in a line, and the clone troopers were just blowing them up. It didn't seem like a very big group of droids, and then like you'd see like 3 bombs go off that would seemingly kill all of them, but then it would like cut away and then cut back, and it's like none of them have died. I was just like, what is happening? So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm definitely down. I'm excited to see the animated series. I'm excited to, especially with that rating that you put on, you know, saw on Rotten Tomatoes there. So definitely willing to give it a chance. I think, like I said, it just is going to take a little bit of an adjustment period for me to not look at Obi-Wan's beard and see just a giant statue beard.
Well, here's the thing too, is like, there's not really too much like spoiler territory because we all know where the story heads, right?
Yeah.
If you have the chance, like, go look at a clip from the final season, or go watch the trailer for the final season, and like the graphics and the animation style, it's just fantastic. Like, it progresses so well through the show, like every animated show, right? The Simpsons, the first season of The Simpsons looks terrible compared to what the show is now. But based off what you guys are saying, I think we're kind of all in the same boat that, you know, Zero the Hutt is our new favorite Star Wars character, right?
Who?
Mm-hmm. That's the uncle to Jabba the Hutt.
So when they said uncle, I did not realize it was I guess a male Jabba or a male Hutt. Like, I was like, oh wow,
Yeah. He when I first watched the show via the episode or the animated series, random show, they introduced Zero and they're like, Zero the Hutt's been arrested. And I was like, who the hell is Zero the Hutt? But now after seeing the movie, I'm like, okay, we know what we're doing here. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that they create this story arc for Jabba the Hutt, that Jabba the Hutt not only has an uncle, but he also has a baby. Like someone slept with him. It's crazy.
The little Huttlet.
A little Huttlet.
God. You know what I thought was funny was, like you said, at the beginning of the animated series, beginning of every show, there's that kind of narrator that kind of says where all the heroes are, like you said. He's like, and on this episode, like I realized he was actually the voice of one of the commanders of one of the starships. So they were like,
I picked that up on this watch through too. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
that's the voice.
I was like, that's the guy. That's the guy that narrates everything.
Yeah. I also thought it was really funny that like there was such a hype over Baby Yoda and Grogu. And I was like, was there a similar hype over Baby Hutt? I was like, I don't feel like there was even a mention of it when
No
this
way.
came out.
Probably
No way.
not, since they called him Stinky or Huttlet the whole time.
And his, I mean, I'm sure the amount of people that have seen this compared to Mandalorian is much different.
Yeah, off topic, but I saw a crazy stat today that said the final episode of season 2 of Mandalorian drew 2.1 million viewers in the United States.
Dang.
And the final episode of Kenobi, episode 6, drew in 1.6 million. So Mandalorian beat Kenobi, which I was really shocked by.
Well, I'm not, to be honest. When Mandalorian was out, and I mean, before we knew he was Grogu, everybody just referred to him as Baby Yoda. I mean, that just blew up. The internet just went nuts over Baby Yoda. So you had people that weren't even Star Wars fans, like, watching this show. Whereas, like, I feel like only real true Star Wars fans are going to watch something like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Well, I think season 2 of Mandalorian also had that, like, epic ending that went viral, where they're like, did you see who showed up at the end? And like, even if you didn't watch the entire season, you're like, oh my god, he's back, I need to watch this, and kind of see how they digitally brought him back as a young man.
So when you say that it's how many views it has, is that like the day of, or like between a certain
That's
time frame?
I think it's the first week, because Kenobi would be it's only been a week since Kenobi when that number came out. And that's only U.S. households, so that doesn't count repeat views. So it just counts like how many households actually watched it. Which even then, like the company that's doing it says that they have access to like Disney Plus's numbers, but I'm just like, I don't know how you would even begin to do that, because then like how many people are sharing accounts? Like I guess you could run it off IP addresses. But I just feel like that would be such a messy process. Like back in the days when they did Nelson ratings on TV, it was easy. But nowadays, it's just like, I have no idea how they get these numbers.
It's Baby Yoda. It's Grogu. That was legitimately the numbers, and why. I guarantee it, because literally watched a TikTok of like this woman at Disneyland, and when they had like a Lego store there, they were building a Yoda, not Baby Yoda, not Grogu. They were building Yoda. And you had to build this like giant brick out of like the smaller bricks, and then you gave it to like the cast members, and then they were building a giant, and they have the same like normal size Yoda as a Lego set that you can buy, and they were basically doing that but like at a much larger scale. And the whole time this woman was like, look, it's Baby Yoda. And I'm like, no, it is not Baby Yoda. That is regular size Yoda. You put some respect on his name.
I remember when I came to your house on Christmas and you had the Grogu blow up, and I told you, and I was like, I hate the name. I was like, just call him Baby Yoda. And you were like, it's Grogu, dude. It's Grogu. Well, a couple weeks ago, I was on TikTok, and this lady was streaming, and she was like, oh, maybe I'll get a Star Wars tattoo. And she's like, what if I got a Baby Yoda tattoo? And I was like, ma'am, his name is Grogu. Stop calling him Baby Yoda. And she's like, I'm not going to call him Grogu. That's a terrible name.
That's his name.
It was hard at first to switch from Baby Yoda to Grogu, because it was almost like people were almost hoping, even though it was like not possible timeline wise. Yeah. It was like, let him be reincarnated somehow.
Force.
It's like, yeah, they were around alive at the same point, but okay.
Yeah.
Is it easier if you just call him Baby Grogu?
Ooh, Baby Grogu.
That for some reason that sounds cuter. Why? What?
I'm just saying.
Why does Baby Grogu sound cuter than just Grogu?
We should change it. We
'Cause
should start
baby.
it right now. Moving forward, the timeline is now Baby
Baby
Grogu.
He's like 50. Baby Grogu. Oh,
So
man.
the second part, like, so that was kind of the first section, right? You got the Battle of Christopher Walken, where they're like literally on the planet and they're taking down droids, and you get to see like Kenobi as a commander, and he's like negotiating surrenders, and you have the balance between Anakin and Ahsoka, where he's like, you would never have made it as Obi-Wan's Padawan, and then. Which was let's talk about that, because that's kind of a rich line, because Anakin didn't even make it as Obi-Wan's Padawan.
The reason why I'm laughing, man, is when I woke up. That was some part I woke up on, and in my head I was like, wait. Was she supposed to be Obi-Wan's Padawan? Like, this whole time, I don't understand what's happening right now. Like, and then I realized it was just a comment he made, like, referring to, you never would have made it as Obi-Wan's Padawan, because I know that she was supposed to be, or they were expecting that Obi-Wan was supposed to obtain a Padawan, and instead Yoda, I guess, suggested that Anakin train her. But yeah, that was around one of the moments that I woke up and was concerned I missed something, but I didn't. We're good.
Well, and you guys are kind of better historians than I am when it comes to this stuff, but like, I went into this animated series thinking that like you could only have one Padawan, but like, I feel like this show's kind of blowing the door off that, because they're like, oh yeah, Obi-Wan's going to have a second Padawan. And then Anakin's not even a Jedi Master at this point, and he's going to get a Padawan? It's like, I kind of felt that was kind of weird.
No, not really, because you have to think Qui-Gon was taking on Anakin, even though he had Obi-Wan.
And you don't have to be a Jedi Master to have a Padawan.
You don't?
Oh, here we go. You don't have to be a Jedi Knight. You don't have to be a Jedi Templar. Lay it on him, B.
No, I'm just saying you don't have to be a How do you think they trade so many Jedis if there's only like 7 Masters?
That's true. Now that's actually making
They had
a
like
lot of
hundreds
sense
of Jedis in training. Like they're not 7 people training all those hundreds of people
Yes, they
one
are.
at a time.
Yes, they are.
Fuck, that makes so much sense.
One thing I didn't realize was they kept calling him General Skywalker, and I'm like, I didn't realize he had the... Was there just multiple generals?
Every Jedi is a general.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. In war, all the Jedis are considered generals because that's just their rank for the troopers to acknowledge them.
So is that why Ahsoka made that snide comment? Was that Rex that she was talking to?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and she was like, since I'm a Jedi, I technically outrank you. You should
And
pull
he's
the
like,
lines.
experiences outweighs anything out here.
Imagine being a clone, like, you are literally made the same. 100% that you are the same person. And seeing somebody like Rex be more of a badass than you. Like, how does that happen? Like, just for me, I was like, isn't it same brain, same everything? Like, how are they just so much better than you?
Experience changes it.
I guess, but
Do you think
man,
they all
Rex-
have the same sense of humor, though?
Yeah, what?
Do you think they all have the same sense of humor?
I think they have similar characteristics, but they have different personalities because of their experiences.
I'm just thinking, like, somebody's about to crack a joke, and all the clones, like, are already laughing before the punchline comes out, because they know, like, storytelling is just
Share
like...
a brain, Bryant.
They have the same brain. It's a clone.
Yeah, it's a hive mind. They actually have a
hive mind.
microchip in their brains that make them be controlled.
The strongest
So-
clone is the mothership.
Yeah, yep.
So that is actually a great point, what you just said right there, because in Phantom Menace, well, okay, maybe not. I don't know. I always felt like the droids were kind of like almost like a hive mind. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, I guess that's not right, because I don't know. When they destroyed the CIS ship in Phantom Menace, all the droids like, powered down, like they just were no longer active. So I guess the signal that controls them weren't active. But this show definitely gave them like more personalities. Like when Rex was like, "We outnumber you," and he was like, "What?" And he looks around, he starts counting 1, 2. Like they almost had like different personalities, and I was like, "Huh."
Or when that droid fell off the thing and he's like, "Hey, come back here."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think I watched something recently that was talking about how, like, Phantom Menace, they were all controlled from the ship, but then somewhere between Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith, something changes, because, like, even when Anakin is sent to Mustafar, they're like, order all the droids to shut off. So it's like there's a little bit of independence, but at the same time, it's like there's still that master switch, because Anakin shuts it off before he gets in a fight with Obi-Wan.
I will say I love that they are throwing in like super droids and or are they called super battle droids? I think they're called. and the droidicas. Like, I've always, like, the moment I saw the droidicas when I was a kid and seeing Phantom Menace and those things just roll up and have the shields and start shooting, I was like, oh my god, like, they were just absolutely my favorite. And then I just still felt that excitement from what I felt when I was a kid when they showed up in the movie. When I was watching it, like, they were just rolling up, and I was like, oh my god. I was so excited. It was just awesome.
So the second major action sequence in this would be when they get to the planet of Teth, and they're, like, scaling the wall while droids are shooting down at them. Brendan, were you bored during this section as well?
No, that was the only good, like, really great sequence of the whole show, in my opinion. When they were climbing that wall, and they do, like, that pan-out shot, I was like, oh, that's so sick.
And Anakin jumps on the speeder bikes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny that, like, am I even allowed to say this word? The cinematography of this was really good. Well done. Like,
animatography?
Yeah, how do you,
I don't know
call
if
it? I mean,
I don't
it's
know
animated.
if that's the word. Yeah.
But, like, just the way the camera angles and a lot of different scenes and shots were just really well done. And I'm just like, wow, like, it just, I don't know, it was just really cool seeing animated series kind of have these really nice looking shots. That's it.
It was good.
I was impressed.
After talking a little bit, I'm going to readjust my score, and I'm going to move it up to a 30. Because there was parts that I actually really enjoyed. Like I said, I just don't know what it was that made me feel like I just wanted it to be over. But it was just weird with the jumpiness. I'm going to stick with that.
It's the length. Like, you said you wanted it to be over. It's like, that's 100% what it is. It's like, you're telling stories in a format that are really good in 30-minute segments, but when you try to expand upon it, it's just like, dear god, man. Like, if you would have watched, like, the first section of this, and then next week you had the second segment and the third one, like, I would venture to believe that, like, maybe the opinion would be a little different, because you would know, like, oh, okay, it's a different story, or there's something on that end. But
see, I don't even think it's that, because I think the first battle on Chris Christopherson would have been like its own.
That's such a better name.
Movie. It could have been its own whole movie, and I would have been okay with that if it wasn't jumpy and weird.
Yeah.
And then the whole, like, Huttlet sequence, whether it was going after him to rescue him and then getting him back to Jabba, like, that could have been its own movie. And if it wasn't jumping around constantly, making me question my own sanity of why I was sitting there watching the movie, it probably would have been really good.
See, I don't feel like you remember how Star Wars movies are, especially the prequels, because the prequels are very jumpy, just like that show, or the movie we just watched. Like, especially like Revenge of the Sith, your all-time favorite movie. That is one of the jumpiest Star Wars movies, because all the main characters are split apart all over the place. It's jumping from Padme to Chancellor Palpatine to Yoda to Mace
Yeah, but
Windu
it doesn't jump.
It does.
Every 32 seconds. It
Yes,
jumps,
it does.
it has a 10-minute scene, and then it
that's like a
explains
3-hour
why
movie.
it's going back. And then it has
like-
another 10-minute scene. It was like 32 seconds. Like, there was nothing happening, and then it would still jump somewhere else where nothing was happening. And I was like, what is happening?
Give an example.
I mean, I'll take it. If we're talking about the Battle of Christopherson.
I was asleep during that one. That doesn't count.
Okay. Let's see. They're in the... Okay, here we go. Obi-Wan goes to Tatooine. He talks to Jabba. The Jawas are trying to scrap his ship. Jabba wants the kidnapper brought back to dead or alive. Count Dooku shows up in the background, and Obi-Wan leaves the planet. That's like a 8-minute scene, and all of that happens within that time period.
You want to talk about not sensing each other. Like, Dooku was literally like 100 feet from him. He didn't sense him, but yet, as he's fighting Ventress, they can sense when Anakin jumps to hyperspace.
Yeah, it's that was kind of a weird thing, now that I'm thinking about it, because like that kind of cancels everything we were talking about in Kenobi.
Right.
But I did like that segment that you just said at the end, where Anakin jumps into hyperspace and Ventress looks in the sky, and I was like, oh, that's sick. Like, she was able to sense that not only was he gone, but Ahsoka and Jabba's kid, they were all gone too.
Any of you watch? Well, I know
Huttlet.
you, Brian. You watched Dragon Ball Z, but Brian, did you?
No.
Brendan watched Dragon Ball Z. So that's something they did a lot. Like, they would conceal their power levels, and so they would make themselves seem extremely weak, so they wouldn't pop up. But as soon as they would like power up, people could sense it from like miles away. And it's almost like what it was. So I'm wondering if like maybe Dooku was just that powerful, or maybe he's got like a Harry Potter invisibility cloak that, you know, constrains his power level. or something.
Like, key things that I really liked about this was, number one, like the art style of the show. It gets better and better as it goes on, but like I just love how it stands by itself. Like it feels like toys. It feels like it's just, I love it. The other thing that I loved is that it showed how when you're watching the prequels, oftentimes it feels like the Clone Wars was one-sided and it was a losing battle for the CIS. But in this, it's like, nah, man, it was kind of like equally matched, like outside of the Jedi, but like the clones were dying, robots were dying, and it kind of made it feel like, oh man, this actually is a war. And then the other thing that I really loved was the lightsaber fight between Dooku and Anakin at the end. I thought that was kind of really well played.
Yeah, and it was interesting seeing Anakin back on Tatooine. And again, I just kept thinking of your comment. You're like, can they choose another planet other than Tatooine?
Are you looking at my notes right now? Because that was my literally my next note is I was like, so much of Star Wars takes place on Tatooine.
Yeah.
They did so a good job. Of Star Wars is surrounding Anakin.
Yeah.
Is it though?
Yeah. And the whole thing is about the Skywalkers.
You know what's weird? And it's like, you kind of get this in the Boba Fett show, but like, I really want, or maybe there's probably a YouTube video out there that explains it, but like, I need to know about the Hutts. Like, you see these other Hutts show up in Boba Fett, and then you see Zero the Hutt, Jabba the Hutt, and I'm like, who are these people, man? Like how are they ruling this sector of the galaxy?
They're space gangsters.
Apparently.
But how? What do they do? Like personally, themselves. Like, they just command other people, and they command power, but how and why? You know what I mean?
Isn't that like the explanation of the world? What do they do themselves? They just command all these other people to do it. They're still in power.
That's what I love about this podcast is I'm like, man, Robbie's got a point, and then Brendan says something, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, okay.
No, because you have to think about it like this. So like what Palpatine was doing with the Senate, that right there is a great example of a gangster. Like, a gangster is somebody who's worked his way up the ranks because he's done some shit. A political figure is more like Jabba the Hutt. It's like, what have they really done? Like, personally. And all of a sudden, they're just ordering other people around. So it's almost like it's reversed.
Next confirmed show, all about the Hutts.
Only if it's filmed like the old
Podcast
school dinosaur show. From the 90s, and it's just like
Land
puppets.
Not the mama.
Yeah, that one. The one where it's like really bad puppets.
Not the mama. Oh, you know how terrible that show would be to just listen to and then fucking C-3PO droids like, Jabba says this.
And then Zero's the weird neighbor across the street that just shows up. He's like, hi!
That was super annoying, like, not having subtitles. Again, another part where I woke up and I was like, am I just drunk? Like,
am I just still?
Not understanding what I don't see subtitles and I can't understand what he's saying.
Imagine waking up for just that part and then falling back asleep before the droid talks. You're like, I don't know what the hell is going on.
That's how I felt, dude. I literally woke up and it was like, it's not a mud Jedi. And I'm like, okay, I heard Jedi. Am I supposed to be understanding what he's saying right now?
So did your daughter enjoy it at least?
Yeah, she said she really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I should have brought her on to talk about it.
No, I mean, it's rough because like I said, I watched the show first, and then I was like, why the hell did they make this movie? But I felt like it was kind of important because it kind of sets up like the universe in a way and kind of introduces you to characters. Like, if you didn't watch this, you just get cold introed to Ahsoka and to Zero and just this whole story. But
yeah, or for those of us that haven't watched this who got cold open to Ahsoka in Mandalorian.
Yeah,
that's true.
Like, I already kind of knew who she was. Like, what's weird about it is I've never seen any of this whatsoever. I've never even seen, like, bits and pieces of it. But, like, the names I knew. Like, I knew Ahsoka. I knew Rex was important immediately when I heard him call him Rex. I was like, oh, I've heard that name before. I know he's, like, a character that shows up a lot. I knew Cody. Like, it was weird to me that I knew those names. I don't know. I must just look at the internet a lot.
I didn't know Cody or Oddball. Are they part of the Bad Batch?
I don't. Well, yeah, actually, I think some of them are. I know Rex has a part to do with the Bad Batch. Bad Batch is basically towards the end, the clone DNA of Django starts to deteriorate because they've been using it so much. So they start getting like these off clones, and that's where you get this Bad Batch. Is it's like a group of clones who are still good at their jobs, but they just they're kind of off a little bit. So it's kind of like crazy. An A team. They're like a little A team of clones that get sent out on special missions.
They're like the spoiled milk.
Hold on, yeah, like why is it called Bad Batch then? It sounds like they're badass.
Yeah, it's like, because like according to the cloners, these would be the Bad Batch of clones. Like it's not good.
Well, that's exciting because that's something I've been super interested in, is seeing more about the clones, like just their life, like just bred straight up just to fight, and that's it. And seeing how much of a badass like Rex was, I'm like, hell yeah, I'd absolutely love to see a whole show or episodes. And it was funny because like when we were watching it, I think it was my daughter, and she was like, "Are they Mandalorians?" And I was like, "No, they're clone troopers." But I forget that it's been so long since she's seen all the movies. Like, I want to say she was probably like 5 the last time we watched them, and she's 12 now. So I'm like, I need to have her watch those again.
Yeah, so I just looked it up. You have the main Bad Batch characters of Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, Crosshair, and Echo. But then Cody and Rex do show up in the show as well. But they're kind of like ensemble in a way. God, I'm so excited for us to get further into the show because there's some stories that happen that I'm like, I want to talk about them right now, but we can't. Brendan mentioned something a little earlier that I was kind of interested to kind of get his thought on. It's like you said you were cold introduced to Ahsoka in The Mandalorian, and you were cold introduced to Ahsoka in the show. Which show do you think had the better introduction of who she was?
Definitely this show. Like,
yeah, this one.
I knew who she was. Like, I've read things obviously about Star Wars, and it's not like I didn't know that Anakin had a Padawan. But like in terms of introducing the character, I like how they did it in this movie.
Yeah, this one's definitely better at introducing, but for the right reason. I mean, you're literally introducing a character. Whereas with the other show, I felt like they actually did a pretty good job of giving that like certain nods to the people who knew already who she was, and also playing into the fact that not everybody's going to know who this person is. Like Ventress.
Yeah.
Like, had she showed up and then all these people are like, "Oh, Ahsoka, yeah, no, I remember you. It's been great. Oh, I saw you like last week." You're like, "What? What are you talking about?" So I thought they did a good job with that. One thing that I thought was really cool was I never understood, well, when they were doing all of the, I almost said propaganda, that's not right, the publicity for Obi-Wan Kenobi, there was this, I guess, moment before they debuted the very first episode, and it was Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor on stage, and it was like minutes before they were going to show the very first episode live, and they were like, "Is there any last thing you want to say?" And Hayden Christensen took the mic and said, "This is where the fun begins." And the crowd went fucking nuts. And I was like, okay. But then I didn't realize, like, he said that in this movie a couple times, and so did Ahsoka. She was like, "This is where the fun begins." And I was like, okay.
Did you have any problem with the voice acting? Like, or were you able to be like, okay, that's Anakin, that's Obi-Wan? Were you able to get past that?
Yeah, Obi-Wan sounds a little different.
Biggest issue I had was Anakin, honestly.
It kind of makes you wonder, like, what was Hayden Christensen really doing during this show? Or do you think he was just like, I'm not interested?
Maybe.
I think he probably wasn't interested because he got such a bad rap. Like,
that's true.
I don't know.
You got a lot of flack. Like, everybody's like,
says, I'm fairly certain he says this is where the fun begins in Revenge of the Sith.
Does he?
I think it's Clone Wars. Like, or Attack of the Clones.
This is where the fun begins. Yeah, I feel like...
No.
Flying
It's Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, it's in the beginning. Yeah, you're right. When they're fighting the droids, and he's like, they're trying to get to Dooku's ship. Because they have Palpatine kidnapped. Which is...
Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good.
I cut you out. I was like randomly... I was like, I know that saying, and it's not from this movie. It's from before.
The other thing,
you know what? Whatever, B. Okay, I don't need you being all judgy. Okay, whatever, man.
The other thing that's kind of interesting is I'm looking at the cast list here, and like they didn't even cast the original actor who played the clones or plays Boba at this point to do the voices of the clones. They just got like a random. Well, I shouldn't say random. He's probably a famous voice actor, but they didn't get the guy who based the clones off of it all.
Did they do Samuel Jackson from Mace Windu?
No. In fact, the only one that they did is later on in the show. You have Qui-Gon Jinn show up.
Oh,
and
no way!
That's Liam Neeson.
Oh snap! You know what's funny is my wife. She was kind of like walking by the TV, and she's like, "Is that Moss?" And I'm like, "What the hell are you trying to say?" She was talking about Mace Windu. I was like, "Why are you calling him Moss?"
Yeah.
I was like, "What is that?" So then she's like, "You want to know why? It's because of Moff Gideon." I like for some reason in my head I thought Moff and Mace. I got them confused. I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. So the ones that we get that are returns is Anthony Daniels comes back and plays C-3PO.
Dang.
Mark Hamill is in the show, but he's not playing Luke. He plays a character by the name of Darth Bane.
Darth Bane?
Yeah, like the Batman villain.
What?
Oh, yes,
Yeah, I don't know. You know what's funny? And I forgot to bring this up because I felt like it was so perfect. When I rewatched Kenobi after we talked about it, and Anakin's voice kind of reminds me of Bane a little bit when his mask gets cut off and he's like,
not your failure. I do. I noticed that too. Because I watched that scene again because it was such a great scene. And yeah, you're exactly right. In my head, I was like, oh, you sound like Bane there. Oh, yes. I was wondering when you were going to show up, Opie.
I kind of a little bit off topic, but I'll just throw it in here. We're re-celebrating Father's Day because I had COVID on Father's Day. And Lakin took me to this brand new store where it's called Holocron in Austin, and it's only Star Wars stuff. So they got Star Wars toys, Star Wars shirts, collectibles, anything you could imagine, they have it there. And we walked in, and they have the original Kenner toys, which are like the original 12 that came out. And when they first came out, they weren't available. You had to pre-order them. And I'm talking to the lady, and she has them loose, and then she has them in the carton. And I'm like, how much?
Whoa. Where is this?
It's in Austin.
I'm not kidding, dude. If my dad gave you a list, he's almost completed the entire set, like the very first original set.
Well, here's the story.
Like 4 more.
Because I go, how much are we talking about in carton? And she's like, I only sell them as a set. So you have to buy all the originals in the set, in the cartons. And I go, okay, well, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about like a couple $100? Like, what are we talking about? And she's like, no, it's $12,000 for the set.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, shit. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about the loose characters, right? Like, what if I wanted to get Luke Skywalker? And she's like, oh, that one's going to be about $100. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to do that. It's a little piece of plastic. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just get like Han and Chewie because that's like $40 and $60. Like, okay, I get 2 of them for $100. And then I was like, but then I can't justify just having Han and Chewie. Like, then you got to get Luke, and then you got to get Leia, and then you're like, oh, should I get Vader? I got to get Vader. Anyway, so I'm doing the math, and I'm like, this is $700 essentially to get like just the ones that I wanted. And I was like, at that point, should I just save up and just be like, if I'm going to go for the collection, I'm just going to save up until I can afford the carton ones because it's so much cooler if they're actually in the box. And then my wife walks up and she's like, we're leaving. She's like, this conversation is done.
This was a mistake. I have failed you.
Yeah, I was legit debating in my head. I was like, yeah, if I had 12,000, I could drop it on that. That's justifiable.
Yeah, what's crazy to me is my dad, like I said, big Star Wars guy, and he has all the original ones from when he was a kid. Just obsessed. Like, he has the original Millennium Falcon, the very first one they ever sold. He's got that. Like, he's got all the figures, and I'm not kidding. Like, he has put together the entire set for the past probably 4 or 5 years. He's been searching on eBay and just hunting. And so every single holiday or birthday for him, it's like, let's get him a $100 eBay gift card to put towards, a purchase of one character, because all the characters he has left are all the expensive ones that are like the random A-Wing pilot or something like that. And it's like $200, $400 just for one action figure. And I'm like, oh my God, and that's loose. That's not even in the box. Like, it's just nuts.
Brendan, are you still collecting the Star Wars Lego stuff?
I would say collecting. I just buy the sets that I like, but yes, I have a whole ton of them.
Okay. Are they all built?
Not currently.
Okay.
Since I moved, I took most of them down.
You
That's
put them
the
in
other
little
one.
baggies.
That's the other one. When I was at the store, I was like, "Oh, this just sounds so relaxing."
Do it.
Building a Death Star, building a Millennium Falcon.
Do it. Those are fun. B got me hooked on those. He was like, "Yo, I think I just saw him building one day," and he was like, "Yeah, it's fun." He's like, "Let's go get one." I was like, "Okay." So we went to the store and like we just bought little Lego Star Wars set, and I'm hooked. I have a whole cabinet full of like sets I've put together. I still have the Boba Fett Slave One ship that still needs to be put together. It was like a $200 set, $400 set, something like that. I have a Millennium Falcon. I have a Star Destroyer. I got a whole bunch that I still need to build, but it's like I don't want to build them because then once I build them, then it's over.
That's awesome.
I tried to get my mom to give me $700 the other day so I could buy the $700 Star
Millennium
Destroyer.
Falcon? Oh, the Star Destroyer? Yeah.
Like, as much as I like the Star Wars Legos, I would never spend $700 on that.
Yes, you
Yeah.
would. Yes,
Maybe
you
on a
would.
certain set, but it's literally just like a solid gray Star Destroyer. And it's
If
like,
it was like a suit that like Brendan could like stand in. That's a Darth Vader suit, and it would like come down and put the helmet on him. He'd be like, "Yeah."
how about a big, giant Darth Vader that just goes in the corner of your room and randomly breathes?
Ooh.
That's
I
creepy.
I'd
spent
sign up for that.
$700 on that.
That'd
They
be
had
so
a
scary.
Lego R2D2 set that I was like, "Oh, that'd be
Yeah.
fun." And it's like a couple hundred, and I was like, "That'd be cool." But then what kind of sold me, or like kind of took me out of the idea, was it's only 12 inches. That's gonna be a soundbite, but like, it's I was just like, that's not big enough. Like, I'm just like, I need, like, if I want an R2D2 and I'm gonna drop $200 for it, I at least want it to be like 24 or 36 inches. Like, I don't want it to be like a Subway foot long sitting on my desk. This just doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Was that a good R2 scream?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I love it when he screams. It's funny to me.
that's what she said.
Yeah. Let's talk about this Clone Wars cast.
I've got everything that I wrote down. I've gone through my notes. I still can't believe we started this, and I was like, I don't know how we're going to make this a podcast and talk about it, but we are quickly approaching an hour. So I'm curious, did you guys have any final thoughts on anything that like we didn't touch on so far?
I'll go first. As long as I don't fall asleep, I think we'll be good. I'm excited to watch the animated series. Definitely am. After watching this today, it was cool. It was exciting. I'm definitely interested more about Clone Wars era, things like that. I really enjoyed that as a kid growing up, so I'm excited to see more of it, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about it.
I'll go next. I'm just going to leave it with, I'm just happy that you brought up that tomato thing because I thought something was wrong with me. And I was like, I'm supposed to like this, but I didn't really like it. Good to find out that the movie itself is not very well received, whereas the show is. And I'm much more excited now.
Yeah, it's this movie is definitely the kind of the ugly duckling of the series, in my opinion. So moving forward, kind of the goal here is like, I think we're going to try to do 2 to 3 episodes a week, kind of talk about what we saw in those, and just kind of tease what the next couple ones are. According to the Wookieepedia online, which is very cute. Episode 1, Jedi Master Yoda is sent out on a secret mission to form a treaty with the King of Todaria. And he gets ambushed by Count Dooku. So that's episode 1 that we're looking forward to. And then episode 2 and 3 is basically a devastating separatist mystery weapon terrorizes the clone Starfleet. Anakin and Ahsoka race to save Jedi Master Plo Koon and his clone troopers in time.
Oh, I've seen these ones.
Oh,
Isn't that
okay.
your favorite Jedi?
Plo Koon, yeah. Plo Koon.
Plo Koon was introduced in the movies, but then in the old school Star Wars Jedi video game, he was a DLC character that you could like unlock at the end. And I was like, this guy's the coolest Jedi ever. He has horns. And then they just do him dirty in Revenge of the Sith. Anyway, so yeah, I'm very excited to kind of jump into this series. We're knock out season 1, and I genuinely hope that you guys feel the same with me. I'm personally like, I look at the Rotten Tomatoes and I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. And I've seen a lot of people talk positive about the animated series, so I don't feel like I've been hyping it up too much. But this movie definitely the outlier. So we will, I guess, hear you all again in next week's episode, and I look forward to talking about the next 3 episodes. So until next time, thank you guys so much for listening to the episode 1 of Clonecast.
This is where the fun begins.
Roger.
Roger.
I gotta come up with an intro and an outro, but
You do.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we're gonna do with that.